Okay, this is the field we call Houghtons. For those of you that visited the site last year, you'll remember that this field was cultivated with two different non-inversion, one shallow, one deep, using the Sumo trio, and we had a ploughed block at the base of the field there. We then split it between a September drilling date, middle of September, and the middle of October drilling date. And the field was fairly universally full of blackgrass. This field is split into two distinct soil types, and the field actually splits just above us here. The surface soil is very similar, but the subsoil is a gravel as we run up the slope, and running into a sandy clay based soil as we run down towards the A1. What we've done this year is we put it into a second wheat. You may question why we didn't put it into a spring crop. Certainly the level of blackgrass in here justified doing that, but from an experimental point of view, and finding out what we could do to manage the population of blackgrass seed, it was a relatively small area, so it's a 6 hectare field, roughly split 3 hectares each of clay-based subsoil and gravel-based subsoil. And if we look at the ditch that runs down the side of the field, there's a distinct change in the base. It's had so much water running through it this autumn and winter, and it's surprising now, here we are, first week of March, and the base of the ditch is now dry, except in the bottom half of the field with the clay-based subsoil. But as you can see, the base of the ditch is now clearly showing the subsoil types that we're dealing with, and there's a distinct switch from a gravel-based subsoil into a clay-based subsoil, and that is having an overriding impact on this field at the moment, rather than the cultivations, which it's extremely easy to jump to the conclusion that cultivations are the driver of any problems this year. So running up the slope, we've actually cultivated on the lighter half of the field. We cultivated with a Sumo trio, as shallow as we could, because the farm is now instigating as much blackgrass control as it can with the machinery it currently has. And the Sumo trio is now running. We've changed the points this year so we can run it as shallow as possible, and that was cultivated with the Sumo. And as we run down the slope towards the A1, we cultivated this area of the field with a cultivator that we've developed with cousins, a surface cultivator which is only operating to 2 inches deep. And as you look at the field at the moment, there's very little to choose in terms of the surface finish between either the Sumo or the surface cultivator. However, the depth of cultivation is obviously very different. Of course, the surface cultivator here is working on the clay-based subsoil, and that's obviously been slower to drain over this autumn. However, we have applied a whole range of blackgrass control options, very much on an experimental basis, asking the question of, if we do this, what happens? So the field is quite complicated. It's really why we hope that you all come and see the site in the last week of May 2013. We can fully explain what's going on. But basically, we have instigated a shallow cultivation. The whole area at the bottom here was shallow cultivated with the new cultivator to 50 millimeters or 2 inches deep. We've then, various sections of the field, we have either followed that cultivation with a roll, a double roll, or a triple roll with a Cambridge roll, to see if that had any impact on blackgrass control or blackgrass growth, and it did. That should be, you can see that on the screen now, with the difference between, on the right of the white poles, using the surface cultivator, on the left using the Sumo, and you can see the difference in the amount of establishment of both volunteer wheat and blackgrass that we achieved by those different cultivation types. But what we've also then done is we've split the field into 3, and we've sprayed either 3 times with glyphosate, twice with glyphosate at a 14-day interval, or no glyphosate until 2 days before drilling. And that's really had a fascinating impact on the level of blackgrass we got to germinate pre-sowing. This field was actually sown on the 31st of October, and in the month prior to that, all the way through October, we carried out these various glyphosate treatments in particular. And where we sprayed off 3 times, we found that we continually got a further germination of blackgrass every time we sprayed off. We believe this is because of root exudate coming from the blackgrass plants. As a plant grows, it releases root exudate, chemical signals from its roots, which say to seeds around that growing plant, I'm here, I'm growing, you don't need to grow. If we keep spraying the population off with glyphosate, obviously those root exudates do not build up, and the population of blackgrass near the surface of the soil continues to germinate. And we actually achieved in the sumo cultivated area, and we've got an overlap here where we've got equal amounts of blackgrass returned on either side of these white sticks. We got roughly 1,000 blackgrass seeds per square metre to germinate following the sumo, and that was in fact sprayed off twice in a commercial situation. However, at the far end of the field, where we sprayed off 3 times, we got over 4,500 seeds to germinate per square metre. Whilst where we didn't spray off until 2 days before drilling, we only achieved around 2,000 seeds per square metre germinated. So there was a vast difference just using that sprayer to spray off blackgrass on a 7-day basis. The really interesting thing now is that, having drilled this field on the 31st of October, and it drilled quite nicely, it has to be said, we could see quite a distinct difference in the emergence of wheat following the various treatments. And where we'd allowed the root exudate to build up in the soil, we got no germination of wheat, and where we'd sprayed off 3 times, we got a good germination of wheat. Of course, we've had slug problems like everybody else this season, and that's still causing us a bit of a headache. We've also had flooding at the bottom of this field, and that's flooding that has entered the field rather than water coming up in the field or poor drainage. That's purely due to the amount of water running through the ditches that surround this field not being able to get through the outlets at the bottom near the A1, because the pipes are obviously smaller, are completely overwhelmed, and we've got spillage of water 3 times across the bottom half of this field, which has obviously rotted some seed out. We'll be putting cover crops in there because that's an issue for us to address this year. How do we get moisture out of the soil? How do we keep soil in good condition? And how do we take it into a 2014 planting situation in the best possible condition? So we'll be looking at a range of cover crops for utilising that. We'll also be doing, in the area which is not growing wheat at the moment because the root exudates prevented it from germinating, we'll be hopefully putting in some small plots of spring crop there to look at how we can manage blackgrass into a spring crop using stale seed bed again, or going straight in cultivating and drilling, and how competitive the individual crops are. So we hope to investigate that too. So there's an awful lot going on in this field, which is very, very difficult to explain within this video, but I think you'll find it absolutely fascinating information if you come and visit us in late May.